morning. Welcome to Mornings with Michael, the weekend update. This is for information and educational purposes only. Let's take a look. Let's go to our word of the day first. And let me just share our screen. Our word of the day is hyaline. Having a glassy or translucent appearance. In my zoology class, we examined a glass frog's anatomy through its hyaline skin. So there we go, our word of the day. Remember, Mornings with Michael is for information and educational purposes only. Let's quickly go to our PowerPoint. So this is just showing, let me see if we got this is just showing that we hit the target, and let's see what the target for next week is. Bring up my handy little notepad here. I am not finding our numbers here. So I believe this is going to be right about 387 for the Dow. Actually, 384.72 for the Dow is our target. And then moving on, this is a look at the monthly of the small cap. Got like a spinning top right here. And it looks like we got a little angle down. Got a kind of hook here. It looks like it's pointing up. But that's kind of a look at the monthly, potentially moving back down based on that spinning top. Here's the and then here's the weekly. We got it moving up slightly, but I'm not sure if that's an inverted hammer, but both these the stochastics and the CCI are moving down, so that looks pretty negative. The volume was pretty good, but it closed in a down position, so that's slightly negative as well. Now let's go. What was the number on the IWM? Looks like 240. And on the NASDAQ, are just kind of diving down below all the moving averages. We got all the CCI and the stochastics heading down. So our target is 429 on 91 on the NASDAQ. And then on the S&P 500, it looks like we got a spinning top. We got a big sell-off. Adobe really knocked down all the software companies on Friday. Both the stochastics and the CCI are heading down. So we got a target of 498.67. We'll take a look at the VIX a little later. We got kind of two targets to hit. This is a look at bulls and bears. The sentiment is pretty bullish right now. I guess with the market going up, people have kind of jumped on the bullish wagon and jumped off the bearish wagon. As we can see, they're going their separate ways. On the sentiment, on a weekly basis, it definitely has dropped from last week. Was at 51.7, dropped to 45.9, but the bears dropped from 21. Actually increased slightly, 21.8 to 21.9. Now let's kind of look at kind of risk to the market. Credit card faults are at default record levels. Delinquency rate and credit card loans, banks not among the 100 largest in size by assets. So here's the risk here. Some are saying that the big banks are waiting for more defaults in the smaller banks so they can run and pick them up later, but that's going to definitely send a chill to the market if that does happen. And now let's take a look. Never in the history of the stock market rally been driven by such a small number of stocks. And it's interesting because Google, Apple, and Tesla are kind of losers in the Mag 7. So the Mag 7 is actually down to the Mag 4. We do have a couple of companies outside of that. We got Super Microcomputer, MicroStrategy, Coin, and a few others that are kind of moving the market up. But it is definitely something to keep our eye on. And U.S. office vacancy rate is nearly 20%. This is the highest level since 2006. What happened after 2006? Well, you can just imagine 2007 and 2000 led to 2008, our big financial crisis where the market sold off 54%. I think that's the end of our show there for our PowerPoint. And let us go to our charts. Just kind of take a look at what happened. This is Netflix kind of holding steady, tried to move higher and then sold off. Let's look at our dollar index. Dollar index went up slightly, had a big bounce the day before. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. Gold falling to its 10-day moving average. Silver, amazing, silver is gapping up, but it's closed on the low. This is almost to the high, so I would almost recommend taking maybe 10% profit, 5 to 10% profits here, and any pullback to like the 10-day moving average, you could add back 15%. So you add more when it pulls back, and then sell less when it comes up here, and then rinse and repeat. Just do that over and over again. As you can see, it goes up here, pulls back, comes back up here, sell, pulls back here, buy right here, and it comes up to the moving average, sell again, and either buy here or here, comes back up here, you sell, pull back here, you buy, and kind of let it ride. Whether you sell here, here, or here, you just kind of rinse and repeat. Here is our copper trade, continues to do well. Like I said before, best place to put on the copper trade is on a pullback, and then just let your profits run. Southern Copper just continues to run as well. It's almost getting to the profit zone right up here. Now, if you bought here on the pullback, you would have a nice profit. FCX. just continues moving up as well. Vale not doing as well. Just continues lower. They had a big distribution here of return to the shareholder. So that is the reason it pulled back there. And now I just kind of watch this and see if this continues to go down. If it does get a bounce, it might be willing to take a little risk on it. And let's go to Australia. BHP has been not doing well. It got a little bit of a bounce. Finally, Rio. These are the ones that have been suffering, just continue down. They're all below the moving averages. But the best place to buy these is down around these areas. So we'll just have to see if you want to nibble and just kind of see if it bounces, and then you could add to your position if it does in fact bounce. Ethereum and Bitcoin are selling off over the weekend. It seems like they're bouncing a little bit. Ethereum came back down to their 20-day moving average and has retreated a little more over the weekend. Bitcoin pulled back to its 10-day moving average and it's pulled back a little bit more. Something, if you are in any of these ETF, BITI is how to short Bitcoin. This is maybe a way to kind of protect some of your profits. If you think this is going to pull back further, maybe to 57,000. A number of people are suggesting that that's retracement on Fibonacci retracement. Let's take a look at our bonds. Bonds had a big move on Thursday, and they're up slightly. We do not want to see a return to this sort of rise because this would really turn off the small caps, and I'm sure it would lead to a pullback in the other indexes as well. So we'll just continue to watch that. It's now currently at 4.30% interest. And our 20-year got a little bit of a pullback on Friday on their big move the day before. Interest at 3.43%. And we'll just take a look at the VIX now. It did fill up one of the gaps over here. Right here, we got one gap that is lower. It's, I believe it's 1301. So the targets are, I think our initial target is 1377 on a slight pullback, and then to surge up to 1588. Did fill this other gap here last week. Big jump up. Let's see what did we hit here? We hit 1553, and then we had a little bit of a pullback. So that's how the VIX is looking. Looked at the S&P 500 earlier in our targets, pulling back to its 20-day moving average. So we've had a huge move here since the breakout. Look at this move. We had one pullback to the 20, second pullback here, got close here, got a third one, bounce. So we'll just see if it bounces off of this or pulls back further to meet our targets. RSP pulling back as well. And the equal weight in the NASDAQ, kind of a big pullback, getting pretty close to their 50-day moving average. So let's go see what kind of news there was on Friday. yen is lower even after Japan's largest union group announced stronger than expected annual wage details, keeping the product of some of the policy tightening from the Bank of Japan next week on the table. Bitcoin prices extending yesterday's declines. Just spoke about that. Let's go to sector news breakdown. Link charging. Adjusted EPS 28-cent loss versus estimate of 31-cent loss, and it has fallen to its 50-day moving average. One group, hospitality. Q4 adjusted EPS 17 cents versus 15 cents. Pulled back and got a nice bounce. 11% decline in earnings. Tilly's. Q4 adjusted EPS 17-cent loss versus 22-cent loss. And they fell significantly, tried to fight back towards the end. Ulta Beauty. This has been a big winner. Q4 EPS $8.08 versus $7.57. Not what people are looking for, as we got a big sell-off. Then it bounced above its 50-day, tried to fight back towards the end, went up to its 20-day, and then reversed. Got a lot of volume in here, a lot of selling volume. It seems like it could be a pink rally day, just the way that it rallied off the bottom there. Zumiez. Q4 EPS loss, $1.73, includes goodwill impairment charge versus estimate of 26-cent profit, and a huge sell-off there. Their earnings declined 32%, and shares were off 7.67%. Onto energy, industrials, and materials. Babcock and Wilcox Enterprises evaluating strategic alternatives for non-strategic assets to increase liquidity. Q4 EPS is 65-cent loss versus estimate of 5 cents, and it's down, wow, close to 23%. And we are in penny stock range. And Nucor, steel manufacturer, got a big bounce. Guides Q1 EPS $3.55 to $3.65 versus estimate of $3.76. So it sold off initially and then bounced from the 50-day. Got a lot of buying in there, up 3.5%. On to financials. Capital One said February net charge-offs were 5.95% versus 4.16%. We're just looking at the defaults earlier in our PowerPoint presentation, and look at this big selling volume. Discover Financial Services. Credit card delinquency rate 1.74% at end of February versus 1.69 at end of January, and we got a sell-off of close to 3% on that. Pretty big volume. And JP Morgan said credit card delinquency rate 0.80 at February end versus 1.07. So they got an improvement, and it's bouncing on that news, up 1.24%. Onto healthcare. Madrigal Healthcare shares jump after wins first U.S. approval for its drug Rezdiffra to treat liver disease, MASH. So big volume up, although it did close near its low for the day. Still up 11%. Merck, Keytruda plus chemoradiotherapy, CRT, significantly improved overall survival versus CRT alone in patients with newly diagnosed high-risk locally advanced cervical cancer. And they got a bounce on that news. Big kind of volume right there, buying volume. ISRG said the FDA approved 510(k) clearance for Da Vinci's 5, the company's next generation multi-port robotic system. And look at that nice volume, up 3.11%. Got a bounce off the 20-day moving average. And Frisia, Q4 EPS 56-cent loss versus estimate 56-cent loss. And they bounce on this news. The full year revenues 424 to 434 million versus estimate of 428.12. On to technology, media, and telecom. Here's where all the problems started on. You can just see that Adobe was having trouble. It couldn't break higher, and it broke lower over here. Look at all that volume, massive red bars here. The blue bars could never overtake the red bars on the move up, so that's kind of a warning sign. Q1 adjusted EPS $4.48 versus $4.38, and I think their guidance was a little poor as well here. So that's the story there. Cardalytics, which had been a big winner, was a big winner here, but it has sold off mightily. Let's just take a look where they come from. Was up as high of $161. Look at that big cascading waterfall there. They've improved, got a big gap up, 148% increase. 14 cents versus 12-cent estimate. And their billings were 105 to 109 million. Revenues is 70 to 73 million versus estimate of 66.46 million. So people are really cheering that. EverCommerce, Q4 EPS 12-cent loss versus 13-cent profit. That is a big miss. Big sell-off. People started buying towards the end, still off nearly 10%. PagerDuty. Q4 adjusted EPS 17 cents versus 15 cents. Big sell-off there as well, even though their earnings were up 143%. Rallied up to the midpoint after the big sell-off. And then Smartsheet. Smartsheet sells off Q4 adjusted EPS 34 cents versus estimate of 18 cents. People were looking for a lot stronger than 386% increase in earnings. So that's our look at last Friday's news. I'll look at a couple ANET. We were looking at Nicholas Darvis's box method. So let's just kind of take a look here. It's trading within in that box. How many weeks do we got here? We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks in this kind of pattern. Doing nothing wrong. It's doing a lot of the work for the AI people through its networks and cloud generation. ServiceNow got hit when all the software companies got hit based on Adobe. Got a pretty big pullback, but look at this move. It's going to have some consolidation. It is below the 50-day moving average. So that is a concern. Just see if it can bounce back. It did bounce back a little bit, so that's worth keeping an eye on. Verb was a big winner Friday. Was up 211%. This penny stock, cloud-based business software. And the, I believe the CBG marijuana business This company got a big boost, up 48%. Also, a couple of big winners from the past, which have really become penny stocks. Canopy Growth, up 11%, and Tilray was up a little over 8%. Tilray, if you look in the past, was as high as 298. They had a big sell-off, and then they had like a climax run and just been selling off ever since then. So that's a look there. Just wanted to take a look at, there's a big AI conference going on right now. NVIDIA pulling back to its 20-day moving average. We'll see if it pulls back to the 20, or if we get a nice move based on this conference. I guess there was some news for super microcomputer. Once again, if we look at this, it's kind of trading within this box. Continue to watch it at a variety of numbers. Somebody, one of the analysts had it at 967, and I've seen as high as 1300 to 1500. So we'll just have to get a little more data on the upcoming earnings. So that's the story there. Oracle kind of got a big boost on their earnings. See if they can break out here. AMD had a big kind of sell-off, and then got a little bit of a bounce last week. I think there was something about their competition with NVIDIA. Some good news here. So we did add a spread, one of the accounts we manage. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. Qualcomm sold off. We're kind of glad we sold it here right around 170, 171, the spread that we had on that one. Square. It still looks good. We still have our call options on this one. Pulling back to its 10-day moving average. Doesn't appear to be doing anything wrong. Kind of hold it in at above where originally gapped up. Had a pullback. Maybe this is a little bit of a shakeout. Shook me out earlier, but on this move up here, I decided to put it back on. Guess you could call this a double bottom. Here's the first leg. Here's the middle of the W, and then here's the lower, and then it moves up after that. Four, we had this on earlier. This is a pretty volatile play. This is a payment processor for all the major hotels. Really had a pretty good earnings, and it is just remains pretty volatile. Skyward. Got this consolidation over here, kind of bounced into the buy area, and it's just been hanging out there. So their earnings 2024 is supposed to be up 24%, another 11% next year. Look over here. Got a few high selling days here. We got a nice blue bar over here. And this is the Make My Trip, big Indian version of Expedia. Kind of broke out right over here. This is See, it's pretty quiet right here, and this is a pocket pivot. I would say this is a 10-day pocket pivot, followed by another pocket pivot and another pocket pivot. And then we have some profit taking here. And then we got another pocket pivot right here. Then it quiets down here. And then we got two more pocket pivots right here. And it rolls around, pulls back to the 20-day moving average. Had some high volume selling over here. A little bit of a consolidation. It's the base and then a base on base. So I would call this one base, and then this is a base on base. Try to break out, pulls back a little bit to the 20-day moving average, but as you see it, it's just riding along this area here, and it just keeps moving higher. So we got a pocket pivot here, followed by another pocket pivot. And I would call this another pocket pivot over here. And we just keep riding higher. Got a pretty big volume move on Friday. Kind of followed up on its move on Thursday. This is a pretty big winner. Duolingo. It's all of a sudden become pretty volatile here. Had a big gap up in its earnings, pulled back to its 10-day moving average. And then with the Adobe news, it really, with all the other software, really sold off on Friday. So we'll just have to continue to watch this and see where this goes. The great news was volume on the selling has all been below average. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see these high volume bars. So we did get them right here. Pull back to the 50-day moving average and then bounce back up. So some ways you could call this a pink rally day that really sold off hard, and then you got a lot of buying to pull it up here. Looks like it could have been a shakeout. So there we go. That's kind of a look at we're highlighting. We'll just kind of see where the market goes next week. Monday and Tuesday are big action. I think a MicroStrategy may be pulling back. There's definitely a lot of shorts in MicroStrategy right now. People shorting it, trying to pull back. So there may be some volatile action moving up if those shorts get pressured and they have to buy back the shares. So we'll continue to watch that. We do have the ants over here, but I'd be careful because even though the ants are showing of institutional buying, this a lot of times these show up at tops in markets, and this has had a massive move. We said before, we had this on the show right around 495, and then look at this vault. This is a nice cup with handle. Could have added right over here, and then boom, there she took off. So far this has been the best trade of the year in the market. People are talking about. We'll see if it can continue, and hope everybody has a great weekend. This has been Mornings with Michael for information and educational purposes only. It's up to you to do your own due diligence on what's right for you and your account. Hope everybody has a great weekend and go out there and continue working on your goals. And your activities are very important to help you reaching your goals. feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about your financial goals or activities. And in the meantime, we look forward to seeing you next week on Monday.